Today on Hands On Photography, I am stepping out of the world of Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm a Creative Cloud user and I use all of their apps. Yeah. I know. We're stepping out of that and we're going to talk about another app today that I think you may find useful as a hands-on photography listener. And that's Luminar Neo. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands On Photography is brought to you by Nareva. Traditional audio conferencing systems can entail lots of components. Installation can take days, and you might not get the mic coverage you need. That's complex, expensive. But Nareva Audio is easy to install and manage. No technicians required. And you get true full room coverage. That's easy economical. Learn more at nareva.com. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Pruitt, and this is Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. Hope y'all are doing well. I am unbelievable as always. As usual, I like to sit down and share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer, as well as a better post-processor, and from time to time have a guest or three on the show, or even take a look at some topical photography-related news that may have happened over the given week or so. And that's what we're going to look at today. We actually have a piece of software that I'd like to share with you all that I've been trying out for a little while and give you my 2 cents worth on it. But before we get into all of that, let me say welcome to all of our brand new listeners. Hey, welcome to you, brand new listener, whoever you may be. Thank you for popping in and hanging out with me here on Hop. Go ahead and subscribe in whatever podcast application you're enjoying this on. We're available on all of them. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there as well. Or you can just head on over to our website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. And you'll see all of the subscription options right there, as well as our previous episodes and previous show notes and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I'm going to reference a couple previous episodes, so go ahead and keep that website handy. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with today's show. Okay, so I wanted to hang out with you folks and talk about some alternatives to the world of Adobe Lightroom. I go, without a doubt saying, hey, I am an Adobe user. I'm an Adobe fanboy. I've been using their products for, I don't know how long now, quite a while. I have the full Creative Cloud suite. I am also an authorized Adobe affiliate. So yeah, all those little disclaimers are out the way. But with that said, I have no problem trying out other applications out there. But what happens is I tend to lean on the Adobe workflow because that just sort of works best for me. So I will pay the little $50-something subscription I pay each month. Yeah, that's a little expensive, but it works for me and it makes my job a little bit easier. So with that said, there are other apps out there that I have used from time to time, such as Capture One, such as Affinity Photo. We talked about some alternatives to Photoshop previously on episode 92. Yeah, episode 92, where we talked about Affinity Photo being a nice alternative to Photoshop, as well as something like GIMP, if you're into that open source kind of thing. Well, I'm always asked about alternatives for the world of Lightroom, and Capture One is pretty popular, and it deserves the credit that it gets, but it's starting to, in my opinion, it's starting to lose a little bit of its sheen and shine a little bit because of their the way things are handled from a licensing standpoint. People are having mixed emotions about it turning more into like a subscription plan the way Adobe does. And hey, to each his own. I have Capture One. I use it from time to time. I dig it. I really like it. I still use Lightroom a little bit more because it just works better for me from a digital asset management standpoint. But now there's other options out there, such as what we're talking about today, and that is Luminar Neo. And this is from the folks at Skylum, and a shout out to those folks out there in Ukraine. They are dealing with a lot of stuff going on right now at the time of this recording regarding the Russian invasion. Thoughts and prayers go out to all of those folks, and we appreciate what you do for the photography community with your Skylum software that you all have put out over the years. Thank you for that. But anyway, I've been playing around with Luminar Neo. This app has been released, and you can get it online on their website for about $80. I think it's like $79.99, so $80. And I said, you know what, let me take a look at this thing a little bit closer and see how it will work for me, just as a post-processing standpoint. I don't necessarily think this is going to be an app that I will utilize for asset management, but as a post-processor, I think there is a lot of potential in this. But before we get into that, let me talk about why I use Lightroom the way that I use it. You know, way back in episode, was it 2 or so? It was way back in the days. Episode 4. I spoke about the differences between Lightroom versus Photoshop, and how Lightroom is more of a photo processor and editor, if you will, where Photoshop is going to give you photo processing, editing, and manipulation, like legit photo manipulation. So it's a whole lot of other tools inside of Photoshop that you're not going to get inside of Lightroom, and vice versa. And so when I stuck with Lightroom, is because of how I can organize my files and be able to find content years down the road, just in case I need to find something for a client or what have you. And I enjoy using it. I enjoy the simple interface of it just being a bunch of sliders on the right-hand side of the screen that just makes things really, really easy to use. And I always hope that there would be other options out there that can pretty much give me the same type of experience, where you literally open it up and there's no confusion on the app that, you know, if you want to increase your exposure or brightness on the screen, on the image, there's going to be an option right there on the screen that says, hey, this is where your exposure is. Fix that. And that's all I want. Something simple and really, really quick and easy to use. And I'll go ahead and tell you, Luminar is giving me that and then some. It also includes a lot of AI tools built into it. That's part of what Luminar is known for, is their AI technology, artificial intelligence, that's built into the application to help make your images look a little bit better, or enhance different things in the image, or just speed up the workflow, because there are some things inside of photo editing that is pretty repeatable from photo to photo. So why not have AI just go ahead and jump in and handle some of those repeatable tasks, so you don't have to do all of the particular clicks and sliders and things like that. And I give them credit for that. They do a really good job with that. Okay. Let me shut up about this. Let me just go ahead and show you all Luminar Neo on the screen. But before I do that, I want to take a few minutes to thank this week's sponsor, the fine folks at Nareva. This episode of Hands On Photography is brought to you by Nareva. Complicated and costly, that has been the state of audio conferencing for larger spaces for a long time. Choosing a traditional system might entail difficult design software and selecting from a dizzying array of separate mics, speakers, DSPs, and a whole lot of other tech that we really won't need in the end. It's sad. Installation usually requires some outside techs to come in, and they often have some highly invasive and expensive process to go along with it. It could take your room offline for days, and you got meetings to handle, but yet you can't get in there because there's techs in there trying to set up the audio conferencing system. What a pain. So technology for audio conferencing needed some type of leap forward, something that can really help transform and simplify this particular sector. That's when Nareva comes in. Nareva made the leap when they created revolutionary microphone mist technology. With this patented technology, 1 or 2 integrated microphone and speaker bars fill a room with thousands of virtual microphones. There is no dead zone, so everyone can be heard in the room. Even that person that's trying to hide back there in the corner of the meeting. Meeting and class participants can simply talk and move naturally in the space and still be heard by remote participants. Thanks to continuous auto calibration, your rooms are instantly and always ready with optimized audio. No outside text required. Nareva also simplified the installation process. So yeah, it's literally about a 30-minute DIY job that pretty much anyone can do. That means big savings on time and big savings on the cost compared to the traditional audio systems. They've simplified management too. Yep, you IT folks are gonna love this. Nareva Console gives IT the power to monitor, manage, and adjust their systems from anywhere. There's no need for IT to go from room to room to make sure everything is plugged in correctly or make sure someone is not going to trip over a particular cable running across the floor. So much simpler, folks. So ask yourself, if you want to go with the costly and complicated traditional system, or do you want to make the leap to the simple and economical Nareva? Learn more at nareva.com. That's NUREVA.com. And we thank Nareva for their support of the show. Okay, so now we are in Luminar Neo, and what I've done is gone ahead and imported a couple images here, and these are all varying in different styles and use cases and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's just a couple things that I wanted to note. First, these are all raw images shot from my camera, with the exception of this photograph here. I believe I shot this one. Well, I'm not even sure now. I may have shot this one with my camera, or I may have shot it with my smartphone. Either way, it didn't matter. This app has handled raw files as well as just JPEGs or PNGs pretty well, and with ease, if I might add. So let's first go ahead and open up this image here. So what you do is you first click on the image like so it has a little highlight on it, and you have to click edit, because if you just press enter on your keyboard or something like that, it doesn't really do anything other than make it bigger. So I'm just going to hit edit here on the screen here like so. And now we are in the particular workflow on the right hand side of the screen. So you see you have a couple menus at the top. It says tools, edits, presets, and so forth. Presets are great because it makes it easy for you to just sort of get started. So if you want to just use a simple preset, that's fine. Sometimes they're just as good as standard filters like you'd see on Instagram. To each his own. I don't always dive into presets, but every now and then I will build out a preset for a particular batch of images that I'm working with, because I know I want that batch of images to have a certain look, and I can keep it nice and uniform with the preset. So that's why you have those over there. And these are all pretty neat. So if you just click on them, you got several to choose from, and it's going to apply the preset if you select it. Granted, I've already done some editing on this, so that's why I'm getting this particular warning, letting me know, hey, you're going to wipe out everything you've been doing on this. So yeah, let's go ahead and apply it. And click OK, and boom, it's done. And this looks pretty good. Not bad. It's a little dramatic, and just gives it a little more mood to the image, and it even lifted up some of the shadow information here on our model. I had the opportunity to hang out with the fine folks at Flipboard not too long ago and go out on their sailboat. This is the CEO of Flipboard. That's flipboard.com. Had a great time. I appreciate them having me out and him posing for me here in this photograph. But yeah, again, playing around with these presets is easy. Just click the button and it'll, apply them as such. But if you don't want to go the preset route, you can just turn it all the way off, what have you. Just moving the slider like so. Or if you go over here to this edit tab, you can just delete it like that. Okay, so it discards all of the different edits. Now let's play around with the actual tools options in here in the develop menu. The develop menu is what most Lightroom folks or Capture One folks are going to be used to, because it has pretty much all of the essential tools that you're going to need for sprucing up your photographs, such as exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows. Again, this is underexposed, so I need to push the exposure up. Looks good, right? Easy. And it handled it pretty quickly. Wasn't a lot of lag when I moved the slider around. It's a pretty efficient app on that standpoint. Next, I wanted to play around with the shadows. So I'm going to push shadows and highlights down, shadows up, I should say, highlights down. And that's going to give me more detail right here on his chest. If I were to go the other way, you notice everything gets darker in the shadows. So again, pretty efficient app. You even have a curves tool. You know how I love the curves tool. Just handle the contrast, put a little S curve in there, really bring things up like so. It's good stuff. Again, standard stuff that works really, really well. So now let's take a look at this edits tab again, and you'll see that it has like little layers built in. So this is showing everything that I have done up to the moment. And if I click back into tools and say, I want to go down here to, let's say film grain. So we'll click on film grain, and I'm going to add film grain to it. And I'm going to overdo it. Okay. Just so you can see it here on the playback of the video. And I'll leave it at that. And if I go back to this edits tab in the upper right again, it's going to show what I just did here in the edits tab. And this is good because it gives you a history to let you see what you've been working with. One thing I don't like though. So let's say I go back to tools and I said, oh, you know what? This thing, it could use a little bit more lift in the shadows. So I'm going to click on the develop tab and I'm going to lift the shadows again. Now, do you notice that the shadow button is now set to 0 because this is a brand new reading of the develop module. I tend to forget that I had already done this at times. So I ended up putting multiple layers in this edit stack. So if I click on edit, now you'll see 2 different times where I worked in the develop module. So rule of thumb, if you know you're going to sort of bounce back and forth between different modules, try not to repeat your steps unless you're pretty deliberate about it, unless you have some sort of reason for repeating that particular step, or you're going to end up with 2 different layers of the same module here in your history. And that can work for you or work against you, depending on the photograph at hand. So just keep that in mind. All right, next, let's go back to the catalog and play around with some of the AI tools. So we're going to click on this image here. Some of y'all may know who this person is. I know her quite well, and I bow down. So we're going to hit edit on this image. All right. Now this is just a high key portrait that I snapped. There's no processing done on this, and you can look at it. Well, actually, let me double check here. There's no processing done on this one yet. And if you look at it, it's pretty crispy and sharp where it needs to be. It's probably over sharpened in a couple spots, like the skin should probably be smoothed out just a little bit because this is supposed to be a flattering portrait, beauty portrait, So I'm thinking, all right, if Luminar knows I'm working with a portrait, how good is its AI? What can its AI do that says, hey, let's speed up the process and make this portrait really stand out? Well, I am in luck because down here at the bottom, there's a couple different tools for portraiture. Okay, so you can, if I had something in the background, I can blur out the background with this bokeh option like so. But there's nothing in the background, so it wouldn't really show anything. But then you have these other tools like face here. Okay, so this one says face light. All right. If we look, we see we have a high key light coming straight down on her face. Well, not really straight down, but at a decent angle. And if I want to increase it, let's watch and see what happens with the AI. So I'm going to push it up. Not too bad. Not too bad. It's still thinking. And yeah, it just sort of brought it up just a little bit more. It's, it almost looks like it's going to wash her out, but I don't need that. I just wanted to, show what it's trying to do. So that's a good way to do a bit of fill light on your subject if you sort of missed it with your reflector or missed how you place the light on your subject. So I'm going to take that back because that's way too much because I got my lighting right on this thing for once anyway. Now look at these other tools here. You have eyes and you have mouth down here. She's got lipstick on. So lip saturation. Sometimes there are models, especially if you're like dealing with a brand, a makeup brand that's really trying to make things stand out for their particular product, like lipstick. Here's what you can do to just boost that lipstick colors by pushing that lip saturation slider. So we're going to push it all the way up to the extreme, and it's going to think and say, hey, we really blew those lips out like that. So no, we don't want to do it that much. So let's dial it back just a little. There we go. So now the lipstick is standing out. I happen to know the lipstick brand, but they're not paying for this show, so I'm not going to mention their name. But yeah, it does help the lipstick stand out there a little bit more. And even if I wanted to do teeth whitening, this AI already knows to take a look at teeth in this image without me having to go in and manually do it with an adjustment brush. That's pretty good. All right. The last thing I want to show on this is the slimming face feature. This is pretty good AI. Now, it depends. You can overdo it, but every now and then you could just really make things stand out a little bit better. Like her cheekbones are really nice, and her smile is really nice. But if I were to slim her face just a little bit, it's really going to help make that smile and those cheeks stand out a little bit more. So if I did it way too much, like so, now she just looks like a child. We don't want that. So let's reset it back. And we'll just push it in just a little. There we go. This is much better. You can use this tool to help bring certain features out in your model, or if you're just trying to help them look like they've lost a little weight, the choice is yours. And again, all of this stuff is being recorded in my processing history. If I go into the edit tab, you'll see that those modules are now listed here in the history. And if I wanted to do some presets or things like that, I can do that as well. It's good stuff there. Very nice work. One more thing I wanted to play with. Let's go back to the catalog and take a look at this image here and hit edit. And if you look at this image and look at the actual history here, because I've already worked on this one, you'll see that I had a lot of stuff going on here. I did some vignetting. I erased some stuff that was in the sky. As a matter of fact, speaking of the sky, I did a sky replacement. So right there, I just did a selection for a particular sky and imported it in, and it really just brought it in and changed the sky out. It's just beautiful. So if we take a look at the before version of it, let's see here. Whoops. Action. Revert to original. And it's thinking. And there we go. That was the original version of it. It's a night and day process there. I'm totally impressed with the flexibility and capability that I was able to get out of this application to create that final image there. But yeah, this is Luminar. This app is really dadgum good if you want to work around with landscapes, work around with portraiture. It's got it all. If you want to take some time and play around with, messing with someone's body figure, like my hard head, he didn't really appreciate me making his body really, really slim like that. But it was a lot of fun to play around with it. I really dig this app. It's, again, you can get it online for a one-time fee of $80. I think that's a pretty good value. We'll put links in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. All right. So that's going to do it for today's episode, folks. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, other apps that you play around with that you'd like to share with the hands-on photographer listener, hey, send it to me. Send me an email, hop@twit.tv. Again, that's hop@twit.tv for all of your comments, questions, feedback, and so forth regarding the show. And also, don't forget about our, upcoming photography challenge. We're shooting the moon now. So go ahead and get your cameras out and go take some photographs of the moon and send those on over to me. And make sure you put moon photography in the subject line. That way I can filter through it pretty quickly. We're starting to get some in, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with all of the other Hands On Photography listeners. If you are cool with me sharing your image, be sure to mention so inside of the email that you send to me. Okay. All right. That's it, folks. Follow me on the social medias. Instagram, I am ant_Pruitt. Let's push that Instagram follower number up. And I'm also ant_Pruitt over on Twitter, if you like to hear me ramble about random stuff from time to time. Thank you all for your continued support of the show. It really does mean a lot. Keep leaving those ratings and reviews inside of Apple Podcasts, and keep sharing the show out with other folks. It does help the show grow, and I really do appreciate that. All right. Thank you to my man, Mr. Victor, for making me look and sound good each and every week, and working very, very hard on this show, man. I really do appreciate you. Yeah, I definitely appreciate you, brother. All right, everybody. You all take care. We're going to get on up out of here. So safely create and dominate, and we will see you next time.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I'm joined by Tarek Malik, the editor-in-chief over at space.com. In our new This Week in Space podcast. Every Friday, Tarek and I take a deep dive into the stories that define the new space age. What's NASA up to? When will Americans once again set foot on the moon? And how about those samples from the Perseverance rover? When are those coming home? What the heck has Elon Musk done now? In addition to all the latest and greatest in space exploration, we'll take an occasional look at bits of spaceflight history that you probably never heard of, and all with an eye towards having a good time along the way. Check us out on your favorite podcatcher.